Hi, I'm Celeste, and welcome to Find Your Purple. Today is day 8 of 40 Days of Reflection, and I'm kind of jumping ahead on something, and it's talking about spiritual warfare. Something happened in recent weeks that I thought that brought it up to me, so I thought I would share it. And it starts with this. This is a little security thing that goes on my keychain that one of my brothers got for us so that we could have it, and I always have it on my keychain. Well, several weeks ago, I was taking my morning walk, and I decided to not take my keys, which meant I left this at home. And I was walking, and I saw something in the distance. Thought at first was a log, and then when I got closer, thought it was a dog, and then I was literally only a few feet away from it when I realized it was a bobcat. And I didn't have this with me. And for some reason, I thought if I turned around and ran, that would provoke something. So the bobcat was on just off the path. There's a hill, a path, a little bit of grass, and then the lake or the pond. And so he was just on one side facing up, but he was watching me. And I kept walking, which meant I was walking towards him. I stayed as far off the path as I could on my side, but again, the pond was on my left. So, and I started just saying, Jesus protect me, Jesus protect me, out loud as I walked. Now, I tried not to stare at him because I always say with dogs, you're not supposed to stare him in the eyes, that's aggressive. But my heart was pounding, and he kind of hunkered down a little bit, watchful, but that was about it. And so I kind of went around, kept going slow, kept going, and then when I started picking up speed, I started speaking in tongues. And we'll be talking about that time in the next 40 days. But, I kept up my pace, and I did not slow down until I was way on the other side of the lake. And I was just thinking, I was real irritated I didn't have this with me. So then wasn't a couple weeks later, I always took this with me on the walk, but I was going on my morning walk, and in my neighborhood, there's a path that goes between two houses that they've fenced. Each of them have the white picket fence, and then the path goes between them so I can go from my street to the next street to go to the pond. And on both sides, they have two dogs. This side is like an Australian Shepherd's, and this side is the color of golden labs, but I don't know. But anyway, they would always bark, both of them, and they would run the fence. And I would just, say, oh, it's okay, as I walk along the fence, because I'm walking along the side of their backyard. And this side would get into fights. Like one of them they'd be running down the fence, and then one would trip over the other, and then they would start fighting. And it happened, fairly regularly. Over the last few weeks. And then one day, one of them almost got over the fence. And these are white picket fences, and they had, below the fence, they had a trellis, a white plastic trellis screwed to the fence to keep small dogs from getting through the pickets. Obviously, the previous owner had a small dog. These were new owners. Well, one of the dogs had jumped up on the fence, had his back paws on that lower fence, using that as a stepping stool to get over the fence. Now, he slipped and fell back down. So, he didn't make it. And, I kept going on my way thinking, should I tell the owner that he almost got out, and, that kind of thing. Didn't think a whole lot of it. Later, I was trying to debate whether I wanted to knock on the door or let the owner know. Because the dog seemed pretty aggressive to me. And I love dogs. I had a 155-pound Malamute, and then my daughter moved in with me, and she had a 100-pound Rottweiler. So, I've always been okay with dogs. Well, a few days later, again, I'm doing my morning walk, and I'm heading to go between the houses. I see the dogs are back out in the backyard, and I'm thinking, okay. So, but before I got to their backyard, before I got to the end of their house, the dog had jumped over the fence, and he was backing me over into the other fence. Now, I had this in my pocket. However, if you look at it, you see this thing that looks like a button? Still not sure what that is. I guess that's just the speaker. I kept pushing that button because I was panicked. This dog was biting me, and I failed to figure out how to use it. Now, come to find out, it's very easy. You just lift it. I had failed to really learn how to do it. Now, when I first got it and first put it on the keychain, I think I'd looked at it and thought I'd figured it out, and it was very basic. But when it came time to actually needing it, and here I am backed into a fence, I have this dog jumping on me, and the way the fences were set on the left side of that fence had the taller fence, and then it went to their front yard and it dropped into a shorter fence. So he had backed me into that part, luckily, so I could scramble over the shorter fence. And I took off to the porch and rang their doorbell. Now, the dog couldn't figure out, he could have jumped over the fence had he known, and it turned out it was a she. Had she known it was a shorter fence, but she was kind of ramming the fence because she was still in an attack mode. And a lady came to the door, and the neighbor whose dog it was came out, and I was kind of yelling over the fence, and I said, "Your dog bit me," and and I was shaking, and so long story short, she came and got the dog and was apologetic and said her dog was never done that before, she didn't know what to do, and one of my daughters, who knows more about dogs than I do, said it's called fence aggression or barrier aggression, either one. And that running up and down the fence, it's about anxiety, that the dog's anxious, and that over time that dog's going to find a way to get over the fence. It's just, and that's what happened. That it's not cute, it's just they're building their anxiety as they run the fence, and I'd never known that. And so the people removed that bottom part that she used as a stair. They now don't let the dogs come out without them, that kind of thing. So my point is, I think of this, and I'd had it at home the first time, so I didn't get to use it. The second time I had it, but I didn't know how to use it when it actually came time to need it. And so now I'm ready. I have it with me all the time. I know how to use it, and I'm set. And in the Bible, it's Ephesians 6:14 is where it starts, and it talks about the armor of God. And again, it's something else we'll be talking about sometime before the end of the 40 days, is about spiritual warfare. I totally believe it, and I've talked to enough people who have experienced it and all of that, and that there is another realm of spirituality, and there's a negative, and there's battles and spiritual attacks, and I'm totally a believer. Well, God has given us ammunition to fight, and it says in the Bible we're not fighting the flesh. So the first verse that kind of talks about it is Ephesians 12, and it says, "For we are not fighting against flesh and blood enemies, but against evil rulers and authorities of the unseen world, against mighty powers in this dark world, and against evil spirits in the heavenly places." So it talks about putting on your armor that God has prepared you with. So in Ephesians 6:14, it starts with, "Stand your ground by putting on your belt of truth and the body of armor of God's righteousness. For shoes, put on the peace that comes with the good news, so that you're fully prepared. In addition to all of this, hold up the shield of faith to stop the fiery arrows of the devil. Put on salvation as your helmet, and take the sword of Spirit, that is the Word of God." So with this, it wasn't, not having it, it's like not having your faith. So it was at home. If I didn't own one, it would be like not having your faith, which was where I was pretty much for 62 years. So then I get this from my brother, and it's like, okay, I've got the faith now, got the Bible, I'm going to church, but I didn't have it with me when I needed it. So I really hadn't put it in me. It was more, I go to church on Sunday, I've got the Bible sitting there, but I really hadn't absorbed it. So just having it isn't enough. You really kind of have to take the step and have it with me. But then the next time I had it, but I didn't know how to use it. And so it's again just that extra step of knowing the faith, knowing that there's a spiritual warfare going on, knowing that there are going to be times where I'm going to feel the fear that goes against what's in the Bible, the fear of things not working out or trusting God or wherever. Having your faith, it's a journey. You don't have it, then you get it, and then you start deepening it, and you start reading the Word, and you start understanding it and studying it and taking it in so it becomes a part of who you are. So I just thought, I'd share it because that seemed to me to be kind of a parallel journey that I took with this little alarm. If I want it to protect me, then I've got to have it with me, I've got to know how to use it, and I've got to be willing to use it. So that was it for today. Long story short. But he didn't, also back to the bite, he didn't break the skin. I did take pictures of it so I could show her, and I went back to the neighbor to show her because I think she might have thought I was overreacting, because by the time she came out, the dog was walking the street, la la la, just hopping down the street. And so I was able to show her a couple places where it bit me, where the bruise, it was obvious, there was bites, there were red marks where the teeth were going in, and so she could tell that there was enough pressure there that there could have been some damage done. And if it had been a child, that dog was in an attack mode. And it really shook her up. And otherwise I would have filed a complaint or something. But she now knows that her dog has a viciousness. And I haven't seen it actually out since in my morning walks. So I'm not sure. She just said she wouldn't let it go out without her and all of that. But so anyway, that's it for today. As always, grab your cup of tea, sit back, and let's start sharing. Until next time, bye-bye.